everyone. Let's get rid of that one. Glad to see all of you here already. All of you who are already joining us. I'm going to shut this one off. Coffee brewing and mushrooms stewing, baking. Sounds good, everyone. As you can see, I've changed some things. I am a little bit smaller, so is the close-up as well, but do not fear, there is still like a larger close-up. Hopefully sound low. Let's have a look. Do you agree, other people? Let me know, please, so I can change it. Okay, so I'm going to bump up my sound in case everyone has their sound on the highest level. Please take it down a bit. So this should be better. Hopefully. Just going to wait until someone confirms it is better or not. And then I'm going to get started. There was just one slide that was in the wrong position, so glad I found it. Welcome everyone. If you're here already, I'm just going to start with it. Don't forget to like the stream if you haven't already. Today I want to go over a couple of things. First of all, I have received some pigments from Lyra from Uganda, paint makers of Lyra, and the pigments, they look like this. So I received some of these little glass tubes, files, and I think they are beautiful. I'm going to try some with you today. They asked me to try it, to give feedback, and I think, you know, who's better to show them to than you. You can give feedback on what you like in the color. I can have a look what it's like to make paint out of them. They also make paints, but you know, since what they do is so kind of unique, everything is local. So they don't use glycerin in the paint since they can acquire that locally, not from a local source, not locally made. Honey, they do. The gum arabic is local. The water, the nutshell pans, every pigment they source. So everything is local, and you know, I think that's beautiful. So I'm just going to try one of them, or a few. Let's have a look how far we can go. And I'll kind of leave it up to you. These are all earth tones since it's locally sourced. We have, I actually received quite a lot. But this is a selection I made. I received 7 more tubes and some pens. So let me know which one you would like to see being made into a paint. We have a cream, kind of light greenish yellow, a green, a yellow, a brownish yellow ochre, orange maroon, and a black kind of earth pigment. So let me know which one you like. So I'm going to try that one first. In the meantime, I hope everyone's coffee and mushrooms are doing okay. Actually, I think I like the orange, but I'm just going to leave it up to you. I'm just going to leave them here. Black looks purplish. It kind of has a warmish kind of undertone to it. But I know what you mean. Looking at the screen over there to kind of assess what you're all looking at, and you know, the things I see here and over there. That's YouTube, that's the streaming software, and this is real life, so everything is a little bit different. Yeah, my guess is the orange as well, though I like all of them. And just to show you, these are the others. Oh, sorry about that. These are the others. And some of them are similar. There is a really nice selection of warmer earths, yellows, and kind of creamish yellows. You know what? I'm just going to start with the orange. And there's one more thing I need to change, by the way. There we go. So let's get started with this one. Oh wow, it even has a plastic cap on it to protect it from moisture. So I have to say they did the packaging really well, although oh, so my hand already. There's just one thing, and I'm just going to unpack one of them. Look, this one's really nice. They use, I'm just going to show it to you here. They used the soot black of a pot they used to cook. They use for cooking at school, at a local school. They used the soot of that pot to make a black pigment. So what I think is really nice, it's, you know, there's a paper wrapper around it. Then there's this nutshell and the paint. So it looks natural and really nice. So I'm not really sure the plastic like this packaging fits that product, but as a paint maker, I'm really happy with this. David, welcome. Thanks for joining. I'm just going to. This is a pen, yes. So David, maybe you can tell a little bit more behind it. You are the mind behind the idea, behind the project. Sebastian, welcome. Yeah, the live starts at 9 every week, and I did get a notification, but that's weird. I don't know. Let me get a little. That's a little bit bigger. So as I said, as a paint maker, I really like the packaging of this. There's a date on it. There it is. There's a date on it. The pigment number. David was kind enough to send me information about the pigment as well, with everything, and we are now working with number 13. So let me have a look if there's information on that pigment as well. Bala orange. Bala is in the coal district to the west of Lira. The land where we found this color is rocky hot with few trees. Bala orange is found next to the maroon, so that's the one that I showed as well. This pigment is traditionally used in local house and road construction. So, like the background behind everything, it has something really unique to it. Alrighter, I got all of the little flasks in one piece, so that went well. I don't know how this reacts with my binder. This is the first time opening a bottle. This is the first time making paint out of this, and I'm just going to treat it as if it were any other earth pigment. To be honest, this looks quite promising. So the first thing I notice is that it is quite fine already. They purified the pigments, all of it, and it looks as it as well. I mean, it looks like a really fine, pure pigment. Thanks, Sebastian. And David, the pans are oyster nuts. They hold 3 to 5 milliliters, so quite generous. They buy them in the market and polish and varnish the nutshells. So it looks, just going to show you here, this is the school. Let me have a look at the name. The King James School watercolor from the pots they use for cooking. So it's a really deep black, as you can see. It could use just a little bit. They're now using palm leaves to make protective envelopes for the paint. That's a really nice addition. So I've been in contact with David in all transparency, and he sent me the paints and pigment samples to try. And I already shared a story on Instagram with the school pot. The cooking pot black, because sourcing your own pigments like that is really unique, and the entire project is really something that I admire and encourage people trying the paints, and you know, maybe even the pigments if you're not a painter but a paint maker. But for me, as a paint maker, this looks like a really good earth pigment. It's really easy to smooth, to mull, but not only mulling, it's like making it a finer pigment. Doesn't really take a lot of effort with this, so that's a good thing. Let's have a look how it swatches. I need a clean brush for that. Let me just get this one. It is a bit grainy to start with, Ryan, yes. Ryder, sorry. But it grinds up pretty easily. So it's not like a very coarse or hard pigment. Let's have a look what it does on paper. So that looks like a really, really nice earth orange. Obviously it's not a true like earth red. This is fault from my side, I didn't use enough water, but this looks like a really, really, really nice and fine pigment. It is a little bit more saturated. So just going to have a quick look, because I can just adjust that to what it is in real life. I think that comes closer. Yeah. So, well, I kind of missed a chat there. I'll just leave Sebastian and Ryder to that conversation. So this is already a very good start. Thank you so much, David, for sharing this with me, so I can share it with all of you. I'm just going to make the green as well. I like the stories and the little the information about it. I've read most of them, especially the ones like from the selection I picked. This one looks interesting to me as well. This is a little bit coarse, and I don't know if this is really going to work as a pigment, because it looks quite sandy. But it could also be something that could be ground on the plate. So I really don't know. But I wanna try the green with you. Mark, welcome. So while I'm going to take a pen, Mark, maybe you could share in the chat what you've been up to since our last, just as an introduction, since the last live stream last week. We talked about Indian yellow, and Mark decided to prune a mango tree, or you already did that, and you used the leaves to try to make Indian yellow with just that and information that I kind of thought of, and then we found online. In all honesty, I'm quite jealous of someone having multiple mango trees with ripe and delicious mangoes growing on them. But it is also something of a nice adventure and experiment. So if any one of you have kind of suggestions on that, how we can, or how Mark in this way can work with mango leaves in a way that we can extract, we as like this community, as much yellow or just play with substances to kind of make a pigment out of it. Everyone feel free to share. I'm going to get a pen for this. David, since I like this pigment, I just decided last 20 seconds I'm going to put these in dot pens. If you're not familiar with these are my dot pens, and this is just a sample pen that you can put in any paint palette. So regular paint palettes. I'm just going to give these away with orders with my next shop update for people to try, and I'll make sure to mention the paint makers of Lyra for this pigment. And hopefully, that way I can also kind of help you a little bit with getting this project off the ground. So 4 dots of these. Well, we're going to have to see what kind of green earth we are working with. While I'm cleaning this, anyone have any ideas how to extract as much color out of the mango leaves as possible? How can we imitate the internal process of a cow, for instance, to make Indian yellow? If we can't, that's also a possibility, but it would be nice if there is a way. Well, Mark managed to extract a yellow from it, but it was more like an earth yellow, more like an ochre. So let's have a look at the green. Olo green, olo green. There is that protective cap again. So are there, I'm very welcome, very happy to do this, David. Are there pigments that give you more trouble, or so I can try it? So if this is a terre verte, then it needs a little bit more binder. Let's see. It sounds like an earth green. It looks like one too. So for all of you who still have your volume at 100, I suggest you lower it now. Now. This looks like a beautiful green earth. Transparent, soft. I know your struggles, Fat Filbert. That's okay. So it's quite weird. It's a little less paint. I've used a little less pigment and binder, but this looks like so much more than it does when I'm mulling, because it's so transparent as a green earth, which is a very obvious thing for a green earth. But let's see if it's, shall we test if it's fine enough? I think we can do it a little bit finer. So while I'm making this green earth from Paintmakers of Lyra, I'm going to get the right little bottle over here, and I'm going to just put this over here. Is this clear enough? I think it is. So just, you know, for my monetization position, wasn't paid to do this, and this is just an honest first review kind of reaction on the product. David, just so far, it feels like a really good natural green earth. And with natural green earth, I mean, it feels like something that hasn't been over-processed. Because I have green earths here that are so fine that I sometimes really doubt if it's a pure earth pigment. So I do offer one in my line of paint, which is a pure PG23 green earth. But I know they aren't all of them are fully natural. Let me get I think we can do it a little more paint. Or else I'm afraid that we can't really see what's going on with the color. So I'm loading a little bit more pigment on my brush, since it's such a transparent pigment. I have to say, this is a really nice, really transparent though, but really nice green earth we have over here. So I can't follow the chat, so I'm just going to have a look at this later. But this pigment and this, well, making paint from this pigment also went really well. So for now, or till now, from what I've seen, David, the people over there have done a really good job. And that's just judging on an orange and a green. But I think these are just, you know, results as you could expect from really good earth pigments. So I really like these. I'm just going to do the very coarse one, because I'm quite curious if that would work as a pigment, since that's kind of feedback I could have right now. All the other ones look really similar in how fine they are. Okay, so that's just, you know, a question that would concern all paint makers. Is it possible to get your paints to look like something from Sennelier or Agayo, or I think Schminke and what is that brand with the gemstones that are synthetic pigments again? You know, the one I'm talking about, the bigger brands. Those are opaque, smooth, etc., etc. I believe they use mills and grinders, which you don't. Well, I don't either. And opaqueness of a paint is a pigment property. So green earth, natural green earth, which we can also give the pigment number PG23, is always going to be transparent. It's always going to be transparent. If there's a that's the one, Daniel Smith. If there's a green earth that is a little bit more opaque, it could be from a different source, natural source. But basically, PG23 is always going to be more transparent than another green pigment. Same as chromium oxide, PG17, is always going to be an opaque color. It really doesn't have to do anything with the amount of pigment you use in a paint. As a painter, yes, but if you put like an entire jar of paint, acrylics for instance, on your canvas, obviously it's going to be opaque. But if you just spread it out really thinly, some pigments are going to be opaque, some pigments are going to be transparent. The finer you make them, the more intense some colors could get. And obviously with a 3-roll mill or a grinder, yes, you can get a finer a more consistent fine paint than with a hand, especially this tiny muller that I have over here. There's a bigger one over here. There's the big one I use more often is... How did I lose my biggest muller? It's right over there. So yes, it could make a difference, but no, it's not going to be more opaque. It's just that that's it. Yeah, so as Ryder said, the only way to make it opaque is just use it from the tube and in mass tone. But even this in mass tone, I can show you right over here. In mass tone, this green earth in mass tone is even going to be quite transparent. And this is just spreading out pure paint, right? So this is still transparent. There's a lot of white shining through. And that's just the thing with pigments, and the beautiful thing with pigments as well. They all have their characteristics and their little personal things that make them beautiful and make them special in a way. So there is also a brand. It might be one of the same brands that I named before, that sells gouache, and they said it is opaque because we added more pigment, just a higher pigment load, and now it is opaque. I think we can all agree that's not possible. Some pigments are opaque, and yes, giving a higher pigment density in a paint would make it harder to use it as a transparent paint, or it needs more water. But there's no way that just a thin stroke of paint, a thin what you could say is a wash, is still opaque by just using more pigments. If I use more pigment, the pigment would fall off the paper. The pigment and binder ratio is just in a way that I can't put in more pigment. So I don't know if any one of you have tried the gouaches I'm talking about. Also, David, what you could give as a like a feedback, no, not just feedback, just maybe to help them. What they've done till now, what I've seen, they're doing a really good job. So the green earth is as I expect it to be, a transparent, really soft, as Gulshan said, glazing, perfect for that. They generally use granite mullers and stones. They now have a glass muller, but mostly using granite, if that affects anything. Granite isn't the hardest possible stone to use for that. I've lost your name in English. Well, maybe I can think of it. Granite has been used for it, but I've showed in a earlier stream. I've showed the mullers that I have. There's one that is like 600 years old. They stopped using that because it left debris in the paint. So about paint making, they need to be really careful with that. But they're also using a natural product, so I don't know if it's noticeable. I don't think it's a bad thing. You told me about that a stone cutter there made them, it adds to the local quality of it. So I think they could keep it. So as I saw in the little jar here, I'm not going to use too much. This Ongika dark black pigment number 4B. You said the B, that's the lowest one, right? Or that's the well, I don't know. You said something about it, but then the bottom pour. Yeah. So I'm just going to, before I rub it or anything, I'm just going to have a look if I can grind it up on the glass. So I think for this pigment, yes, you can grind it on your slab, but I don't know if everyone is going to. Yes, the bad ASMR. If everyone is going to like this, so I don't mind it. I love. The azurite that I have is a very coarse version, so I can kind of influence how fine I want to make it. But seeing how easily this, just listen to it. How easily this grinds. Yeah, right, this is the same. Right, and I'm just going to add a little of the coarse stuff to it. So the bad ASMR is going to start again. For those of you with headphones on, be aware. So this, just going to get that off with my finger. This here is the same pigment as this. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit more down pressure. It is quite a lot, and then suddenly it just goes down and ends up in this smooth brownish gray. Okay, so one question, Ryder, and I know people have answered that, but there was an answer in my head. In bread making, you can overwork your dough. Is that with paint making too? Yes, sometimes yes. There are a couple of factors in this. With some colors, you lose colors. Natural lapis lazuli, and you've probably, speaking with you before, you've probably seen it in my lapis lazuli video. I don't grind that anymore when I make paint out of it. I grind the pigment as fine as I want it. So I have a really fine and blue, consistently blue pigment. When I over mull that, it loses color, and I don't want that. Azurite has the same, malachite kind of a little bit has the same. Synthetic pigments don't really, but there's another factor. If you, and maybe that is interesting for you, David, if you grind it too long, maybe that's not interesting for you. They are working with natural pigments, but synthetic pigments, some of them can't handle heat, high amounts of heat. And I know we're not working with high amounts of heat here, but if you have a large muller and there's a lot of grinding needed, I didn't use enough water for this, so I'm just going to add binder to it. That was too much binder. I need to sorry guys. I need to grind up a little bit more. Some pigments can be overworked, so yeah. Ian, silicon carbide can be really milled into paint. You can really grind it a lot finer than the grit that you have. Sorry everyone. So maybe, oh, that's a lot. Okay, there we go. Maybe it would be an idea, David, because I really can't see me making paint out of this entire flask like in one go, which I would do with other pigments. Maybe they can kind of pre-grind this a little bit, but then I don't know how similar it is to the fine version of it. It is kind of an umber, yeah. Maybe not even, it is slightly more creamy than an umber. I would say it's a pastel umber if there is some kind of umber like that. I really like this. Maybe my white balance is a little bit, that is a difficult camera for me, but I think this is better. Just do it like this. Do we want to do the autofocus here? We can do the autofocus, right? Yeah, we can. There we go. So this is the same pigment as, well, this one. Kind of autofocus. Yes, there we go. Kind of sandy, gritty. As you could hear as well. But a really beautiful, smooth, natural pigment to paint with. So again, this one I also like. Gulchen, that's, you guess that's a good one for skin tones. Absolutely, I could see that, yeah. So maybe I've used a little bit too much water in the end here. So I'm just going to see how this dries. But I really like this. So just, you know, it could be a little bit finer. If that's too much work for what it is, I think it's fine as well to just offer it as an option and just, you know, share the information that it is quite coarse. Because, you know, selling this and then putting this next to it, like with the swatch, what it could be, it's quite hard. Literally, it's quite hard. They plan to find some malachite and azurite. There are copper mines in Uganda. Then they will need to know about the grinding. Yeah, Sebastian, I think you were talking about that, right? The levigating, levigating. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't use that enough. There are lots of impurities, but purity versions of the pigments, but lots of impurities in the minerals. So you can get a really, really nice deep blue out of it, but also kind of a turquoise-ish, softer hue. I would love to try those, but just because I've had quite some lazurites or azurites and quite a few malachites as well. I'm especially interested in malachite since it is quite noticeably yellowing more obvious than the than azurite is. And I've had that once. So these are the paints that I just made. I've had that once. I made malachite. I had a pen, and I cut the pen open just to see, because the outer layer was kind of a bit oxidized. It was kind of a yellowish, but the inside was perfectly green. I did that to another batch, so I had a pen, but it fell out of the pen actually. I didn't use enough binder, and it was a long time ago, but it fell out of the pen. I cut open another one from another batch of malachite that I tried, old kind of pens next to each other drying, and that was full yellow on the inside as well. I used the same binder, same water, same everything, so that was really weird. It's really fun to see that this even is, it's not even mass tone, it's still like a wash, and the orange is more saturated than the mass tone, like the full mass tone of the earth green. David, to the people who are making these, my compliments, really. Maybe you can share the Etsy store here. Feel free to do so, since I really want to support your project. Gulchen, that I think that was a different pigment, because the malachite for me, that was in a dark spot. That was completely dark. It was just because of the acidity. I don't know, the moisture in the air that made it oxidize. So that's the weird thing. One of the batches that I made was yellow on the inside as well, of the inside of the pen. So when I cut open the paint, the little block of paint, it was yellow on the inside as well. And as a pigment, they look exactly the same. So that was it was weird for me. I didn't really know what happened or where the difference came from. Yeah, some pigments are weird. Absolutely true. David, since I still have, sorry, since I still have your pigments next to me here, is there anything else you would like me to try? Yes, there is. Obviously, we're going to try the Suit Black. To see how they reactivate. So there's a dry, going to share everything here, dry paint. There's a dry brush as well, here a dry brush. Now it is a wet brush. Because as I mentioned before, they don't use glycerin. Oh wow. But to be honest, this re-wets beautifully. That looks really, really, really nice. We get the camera just a bit up there. And this is another thing I like. I usually don't smell my paint, but my paint usually doesn't smell. I think that's it. I think you use clove oil, right? You mentioned that, but just to check. And I smell the fire. I smell the burning wood leaving this soot on the side of the pot. And I really like it. I really, really like it. So that's just, you know, maybe a weird personal thing, but this isn't anything like you would buy from a pigment shop or store. I like this. So it's Gulchen. It's really similar to the Chinese ink sticks. I've just, you know, it has been reactivating for a while now, and I'm just going to go over it with my wet brush again. And immediately you feel it's sticky. So, you know, you notice that there is honey in it, but the pigment load that comes off is just incredible then. And it is such a fine pigment as well. Let me have a look which ones I have, because you did send me a few blacks. Let me have a look. I had the Atuk black. I do have that one, and the old one, it's still like green. Cooking pot black from August 24, so 2 months ago. So I'm going to let them dry, David. This one is dry already, I think. I like. I'm going to try these a different time. But I really like this one, just as it is. I really like this one. And I'm going to share my feedback for the other ones with you as soon as I can. But for what I've seen and tried here, they've done a really amazing job. I'm going to let this dry to see what you are talking about. If they lift off the paper, do you mean they lift off the paper when they're wet, or when they're dry as well? The ink sticks. You've probably seen the TikToks or your Instagram, YouTube. I don't know, the short clips, maybe the long ones even, how they make that, right? The sticky kind of gummy paste of black. I'm really amazed by how they make those blocks and form it, and the amount of time and work that goes into this. Do I have azurite or malachite? I do have azurite or malachite. I have azurite and malachite. What do you want me to make? I'm just going to have a look if my azurite is even over here. Which I'm not sure of, actually. I'm sorry if I'm too close to the mic now, but it might be over, yes. It is in my toxic cupboard. So this is the azurite that I have, and I can make it. Let's just make it. I'm not going to make too much of it, and I actually want to wear a mask while doing this, just because otherwise, you know, I don't want to take any risk. But this isn't going to be very good for my audio, since so just to talk, I'm just going to make a tiny bit, but this is quite gritty. So this is quite comparable to the black pigment I just made in grittiness. So I can show you from up close. It is beautifully blue, deep blue. Where is it? There it is. But quite gritty. Right, so let's have a look. So, yeah, I'm going to show you how this changes color. I think that's a very good idea, Sebastian. And I'm also going to try something else, just for fun. Does this actually work? Let's have a look. Yes, it does work. Okay, so right now I have a point of view camera of me making paint, which might be weird. It feels weird, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. So I have both hands free and I'm still filming with my phone. It really is weird. You can see how gritty and blue this is. So I'm taking off my mask now. Since there's no dry pigment, it wasn't as fine as the malachite I have. So you can already see the colors changing, right? You have the deep blue right over here. And then there is, this is not just transparency, there's a lighter kind of tint of blue over here. So let's just work this and maybe overwork this to show you the difference. And just, you know, because you probably want to know what I'm doing here, this is my phone hanging on this thing, just to show you what I'm doing, and more actually to show you the difference in color from this here and this here, which is quite accurate, I have to say. It almost lost all of the deep blue intensity it had before, which is not a shame. This is due to two factors. You're making it smaller, thus losing color. Also, I'm not using the purest azurite, although this is very blue. There is also some debris in this. Let me just get this up. There, you can see it here. There's enough stuff in there to just not keep that rich deep blue. It is even when I'm thinking cobalt blue, I'm still thinking the deep version, maybe PB74, maybe a good PB28. This is more like cerulean. So in my case, that will be PB35, what I'm using for cerulean blue. It really doesn't go greenish, this one. It loses slight color. It's weird since the blue turns yellowish without going greenish. It doesn't skip green, but it just doesn't become the green you'd expect a blue and yellow would be. You kind of see the blue with a layer of yellow oxidation or something like that. It's not going to be a green pigment. But there is a huge difference in color. You know, from what it was to what it is now here. And if we're going to swatch that you'll see what I mean with it looks like a cerulean blue. Kali, I welcome, but I don't quite get what you're saying. I like the grinding slab. Is it this? But I have no idea what it is. Do you mean this thing? If so, this is just a glass plate with some anti or some grip mat. I don't know what you call it. It's definitely not Yves Klein. Because that's just ultramarine blue. That was not clean water. So I need to, I can, or a clean brush. Yeah, looking at the Dutch word for it, I think that is correct. I don't know if that's the right term for it in English. So a beautiful sky blue granulating natural paint with a beautiful texture to it. I really like this this color a lot. I think one of my favorite natural ones to make, since there is such a large color shift while making it. It has a really nice texture. It granulates a lot. You can see it while it's drying. It's just granulating. I really like this color. So yeah, there it is, azurite. Are there any other questions or things you would like to see? Because I'm kind of open for everything now in the stream. Let me know. Light fastness, not excellent, not the best, but it is quite good. No, light fastness is actually quite good, but synthetic pigments, maybe it's not the light fastness, maybe it's how stable this pigment is, because it does oxidize, it does yellow a bit, and I can try to take a picture of it and take a picture of it next week, and with custom white balance and lightness and everything, so we can actually compare them next to each other. How do you make a pigment from a dye? You know that, Mark. You shared that with me, right? That was quite a good source, I think. Let's see, find a pan for PB30. Says, I know we're making natural pigments here, but this one has a pigment number. There is synthetic malachite and synthetic azurite as well. Ryder has a question as well. Ask away. And if anyone if anyone has information for Mark, how to make a pigment from a dye. I think the source that he had was quite, at least, you know, the things that I know about it were in there. But if anyone has any ideas or tips or tricks, please share them. Ryder, you have a yellow iron oxide. One is transparent, one is opaque. And brands have yellow ochre that look like a mix of those both. Is that a thing makers do? Short answer, yes. Yes. More complicated answer. The realm of ochres and natural pigments. I've spoken about this before a while back, but giving the wait one moment. Did I just put azurite in? Yeah, I put it in the right pen. Okay, so the realm of natural pigments, the fact that they put PBR7 on siennas and umbers and brown ochres and, you know, all things like that, burned or raw, PY43, PR102, you have violet PR102s and you have red orange PR102s, you have brown PY43s and bright yellow PY43s, even almost white PY43s, same pigment number, all different sources, and no single piece of earth is going to be the exact same combination of elements, and so yeah, what Paolo says, the CI, so the color index code, doesn't mean it's a pure substance. It is a combination of chemicals, a combination of elements, substances, whether it's synthetic or earth. If one pigment manufacturer sells a golden yellow ochre, most of that would come from one source, but selling it for such a long time and having a fully consistent color, which you can expect from the higher brands, obviously, would mean they need to mix it. If you could compare that to, for instance, a blended whiskey instead of a single malt, a blend could consist of all the same different whiskies to get that taste, but maybe a few years later one batch of that whiskey tasted a little bit different, or there were some different weather circumstances, you know, you name it, so they needed a little bit more of that and a little bit less of that to get the same taste of that blend. Same goes for pigments. What is the difference between siennas and ochres? Well, ochres are usually yellow. Yellow and brownish. You have red ochres. Yeah, no, that's not true. Red ochres as well. Location. So sienna is also iron oxide. At least red in earth is an iron oxide. A yellow in earth is a hydrated iron oxide, if I'm saying that correct. Green in earth, you know, they're all kind of things, they are in all of those pigments, natural pigments especially. Sienna is literally a place. Umbria as well, Italy, umber. So yeah, location. And now I want Hammond as well, but there is one thing, you know, there is burnt sienna for instance, I have loads of burnt siennas until I landed on the burnt sienna that I wanted to use for my line of paint. And there are burnt siennas that are PBR7, so natural. Then there's burnt siennas that are PR101. Then you have burnt siennas that are actually a mix of things. And they all are called burnt sienna. And obviously in a synthetic pigment, it doesn't need to come from sienna for that. It's just the name that we've given a certain red orange earth color. So anyway, while I'm kind of cleaning up here, if there are no more questions, I'm kind of going to end the stream now, since I'm probably going to play a little bit more with the paints and pigments here, but just, you know, casually. I'm not going to make a bigger batch of paint today, unless there is something someone really wants to see. If you pick up a yellow earth, how do you know if it's sienna or ochre? Well, if you are in sienna, you know, it's no. That's a good question. I'm going to come back to that. Okay, Sebastian. So when is something a sienna and when is it an ochre? I think that the content, the chemical content of it, needs to play a part, I think. But I'm going to check it for you. So I hope everyone had their share of Indian yellow sorcery talk in the chat. I hope oh, is there new pigment news? Let me think. There was something. There was... Thank you, KR. So just to show you what we've made today here during the stream. There was something. Let me just think about what I'm kind of forgetting now while I'm making a lot of sound and showing you the pigments that I've used. Let's make that a thing. And if anyone recreates Indian yellow, it would be my honor to actually make it with you here. You know, the pigment to a paint. Just sharing that as well. Pigment news. Not that I'm going to look that up for you, Gulchen. Not as groundbreaking as the new magenta, and I'm trying to get in contact with the people that can actually that might be able to get me some of that pigment. Hopefully they'll get back to me soon. Hopefully. So just, you know, for the stream and in all transparency, wait. Okay, pause that. I don't want to crack anything and end up covered in urine. Just saying. Paolo, I fully get that. I'm with you on that, absolutely. So let's try a urine-free Indian yellow, please. Also, in all transparency, please don't recreate other things like mummy brown or Paris green. Don't grind up sea snails for color. please just be careful with what you're doing. Also with things like we've been talking about malachite, we've been talking about azurite for those of you who have it. Please be careful with that as well, grinding that up, the powder and stuff like that. I know we've talked about that before, about how mildly dangerous it is or isn't. But still, it contains copper. We are working with fine dust here, so just be careful with that. Right, wear a mask, same as I did while grinding this up. When it's wet, it's a lot safer. Still, I'm always putting this on. This is a new jar already, but the liquid gloves. So there's a thin layer on my hands. I can just wash them and wash everything right off. So, you didn't make that up, Nicole. It is a good question. Caput mortuum is basically translated dead head or dead remains, and that's where it kind of comes from. It is the color. It is not the thing it was made of. And caput mortuum and mummy brown actually existed next to each other for a while, so it's not something that has replaced it, or not something that originated from actual mummies. Mummy brown did, unfortunately, but caput mortuum did not. It is actually a synthetic iron oxide, PR101 in most cases. I've made that on a stream before as well. And although this is one of the nicer natural pigments that I have in my collection, shout out to Paintmakers of Lyra for these pigments, because these are very nice as well. But as far as synthetic pigments, I wouldn't say caput mortuum is the nicest pigment that I can think of, but if you're new to paintmaking, or if you aren't, because I'm also always kind of blown away by what it does. If you're new to paintmaking, it really would do that. Shall I? Maybe it's getting too late if I do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it a different time. Next week maybe. Caput mortuum. The way how it reacts, and I've showed this before on the regular viewers on another stream, the way it goes from a red earth, Phoenician red, Indian red, to a violet darkish thing in your slab, and then you paint it out and it's like really bright, and then it kind of separates to a maroon with black granulation on your paper. I really like it. Okay, so the Indian yellow thing, I'm just going to let the chat do its thing there. Sebastian has a last question, or at least your last question for now. Mummy brown, was it made by using the flesh content, meat content, or the wraps that went around the mummies? Let's all just let that question sink in, and how fully disturbing that question is, not from you, Sebastian, but the fact that we need to think about which part of of human remains in the way that we use them, that we need to think about this. As far as I know, the entire mummy was used. So they didn't, as far as I know. I wasn't there. Fortunately, sorry about that. Fortunately, I'm happy I wasn't there. As far as I know, they took the entire mummy or pieces of a mummy. Not always human remains, but also mummified cats, crocodiles, birds, snakes, you name it. Loads of living organisms, beings were mummified. Um, and they used the entire thing. Sometimes it's not possible to unwrap a mummy. Quite often actually. Still, no personal experience. I have one that is a burnt version, so a heated version. They could grind it up finer that way, and it leaves a little a richer color. That's what I've been told by the collector that that I have the pigment from. Then you had like same as umbers and siennas, the raw mummy, which was a bit grittier and left more like literally a more like an umber, a gritty umber texture and tone. But I will never give away or sell or whatever the mummy brown, since I don't think it's ethical. I've made one video about it. And the fact that, you know, people have used mummies for this end, for any end other than you know, their final resting place, and the fact that they were used for stuff, it's not okay. So, you know, just to get that out. In that video, I also mentioned what they did when we ran out of mummies, and I'm saying we because as a Western culture, I think, especially, you know, the art world and alchemists and medicines were made back then. I think a lot of European countries are to blame for the things that were used back then or stolen or whatever. But when they ran out of mummies, they actually used human remains of criminals that were dried out in the desert to replicate mummies and ground them up. That's what I've been told, and it's nasty. Well, it's weird that people went so far because they ran out of mummies for making medicine out of it and paint out of it, and so it's, yeah. I'm glad we have modern synthetic pigments that really doesn't need anything of the sorts. So, on that happy note, I think I'm going to end the live stream. I would like to thank everyone for joining. Isn't there something happier we can end with? Something nicer, something lighter, something not as macabre as my last story. Isn't there something like that? I think there should be, right? Yeah, it is far worse, Sebastian, I know. Okay, go check out. Just go check out the. Let me just share a video here, since we're talking about. We can do it like this, right? Can we just do the? Yeah, we can probably do that. No, not that as well. No, it doesn't go directly to this, so I'm just going to share it with you over here. Can we do that? Probably. there we go. So that's the video to. Oh wow, Nicole! What a timing! That's the video to the new magenta. Wow, that is great timing of you. Well, there are other things were there. Was purple found by accident? Yes and no. If we're talking Tyrian purple, which was a dye, I really don't know how they found it, to be honest. I'm going to look that up for you as well. Other than that, there's been a long search for violets and purples until, you know, manganese, cobalt, all those things. Then we had ultramarine violet, dioxazine, things like that. I'm going to come back to that question. Guys, girls, everyone, people, have a great evening. Thank you very much for joining. I hope everyone liked it. If you have a question, drop it down in the chat. I'm going to leave it open for just a little bit. So, you know, if you have questions, if you haven't seen the video, I just linked in the chat. Where is it? In the chat or there. Check out that video because I'm really excited about that development, about the new magenta. If you have questions about it, come back to this chat over here because I'm going to leave it open for a minute, and we'll talk about that a little later, maybe next week, but who knows. Thanks everyone, see you next week.